Hello there, my name's Jay. I'm here to go over a review of the Weboost Drive Sleek. It's a cell phone magnifier, amplifier, and I've been using it for over 3.5 years now. So I'd like to finally tell you exactly what I think, where it's useful, and how functional it really is. I'm guessing, like a lot of you that are watching this video, you're curious if it actually works. There are a lot of reviews saying that it works well. There are a lot of reviews saying it doesn't work well. And I was skeptical of either. I just kind of wanted it to work. So back in 2019, I purchased it. It cost more than $200 now. It costs $200 now, but it cost a little bit more back then. But it was November 2019 I bought it, and I've been using it since, and it's been working great. Normally, I wouldn't care if I got cell signal when I'm somewhere like this, but when I started seeing my girlfriend, it was more important that I had some cell signal so I can message her or talk with her when I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere like this. And today was a great example of it because this spot, I'm in a Lewis and Clark National Forest. I'm on the northern end. It's still quite snowy, so I'm at 4,700 feet. But here, I had one bar on my cell phone with Verizon, and I couldn't send any pictures with WhatsApp. I could send messages, but it would take minutes sometimes for it to send. But I had this, so I plugged it in, and the pictures I had queued up ready to go, they sent within seconds after I plugged it in. It went from one bar with very little data, intermittent data, to 3 bars of pretty solid data. Like, I was able to stream YouTube even and get it to work okay. And out here, that's quite amazing actually. And without the booster, I would not be able to do so. So let me give you an overview of the parts, and I will take you inside the car and show you how I plug it in and how well it works. The first part is the antenna. It's a magnetic antenna. It's got a long cable and it plugs into the main control unit. The way I keep it, I just kind of bundle all this together. They recommend you mount it in the car, this and that, but I'll go over why I don't do it and why it's not really necessary. I guess if you're in places with weak cell signal all the time, it'd be nice to have a booster because that kind of saves the cell phone from having to reach out to the cell towers repeatedly at full strength. So it saves the cell phone battery. But I'd say 80% of the time for me, I'm in places with pretty good cell service. So this is completely unnecessary. And if you have this mounted on the back of your car, you're kind of telling everyone you have this in your car and maybe they want to break in. I don't know, because these are not cheap. And I know the bigger ones are like $500+, so they're not cheap. But this one, it's $200. It's a lot. It's the cheapest one they have, but it works well enough. So what I do is I just keep the power plug attached to the main module. And this is the phone mount. The difference between this and the other models is this one, you actually have to put your phone into the mount right here. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. It only boosts this area right here. The more expensive ones have like a range. You can set it up one place in your van and you can have magnified service throughout. This does not. You must have it here. And they say you mount this on your dash somewhere and you put your phone in it. You can still charge your phone through this bottom port, but I just don't need it. It's also very big and I don't want that bouncing up and down with my phone attached to it. So I just put it away because really I don't need it. And when I'm driving, I really don't need service. It's just better to just download all the maps you want before you get out there. And when you're driving, the cell signal cuts in and out, regardless of whether you have this or not. It could cut in and out, so you shouldn't rely on this to get you service magically, because sometimes I'll have no service at all and I might get 1 bar, some data. But if if you're really in the middle of nowhere in a valley and you have no service at all and you try this, your chances are you might get no service with this either. So it's not a magic cure-all, but if you have really weak 1 bar signal, or if you find you're somewhere where you have no signal, but if you walk 10 feet, you have 1 bar, but no data at all, this could actually work quite well for you. Let's go to the car and I'll show you how I usually have it set up inside the car. Welcome to my car. This is usually where I sit, and I'll have this whole bundle on the basically the center console just right over there. And I'll just use this sitting back here and I'll put the phone into that. The phone basically just slides right on. You just push it up and it's in place, and there's a little charging port ready to go. There's a light here. It's not on, so that's indicating it's not plugged in. We'll turn it on in a little bit. Hey, you can see the camera. Normally, I will just put this antenna just up here on the metal part, and then I just close the door right on it. In the instructions for this device, they say you can run the cable through the door like this. But I have found, at least on the Forerunner that I have, that the rubber seals will close in, but it won't be enough. That water will just run down the cable. It will actually run all the way down to your device. So I would not recommend putting this in the door. If you do, what I have done before is kind of loop it somehow outside, not here, but basically you just want the water to drip away, but water will drip right through the seal, so I wouldn't do that. The antenna port is right here, and the antenna is right here. Again, I usually put the antenna away, but if I'm camped somewhere for a couple days and I want to use it every now and then, I keep the antenna mounted on the car unless it's raining, and I usually keep that plugged in as well. Here I have a 12-volt cigarette adapter that just goes straight to the solar batteries. That way I can run this off solar, keep the car off, things like that. And this just pops open and just plug it in. As soon as I plug it in, you'll see that there's a white light here. So let's take the cell phone out of the mount. You'll see that my phone has 1 bar now. I'll show you a video recording of it on the side here, but it's 1 bar. And if I take the mount and put it in, let's see what happens here. It's up to 2. Often it goes up to 3, but it looks like it might have stalled out at 2 for now. 2 to 3. Still better than 1. And if I take it off again, oh, it went up to 3. And it's down to 2 bars. Now move the mount further away. And it's down to still 2 bars. It's like before it was always 1 bar. Oh, there it goes. Before it was always 1 bar. And the time I want to show you, it goes at 2 bars. But there's 2. And then back onto the mount. It's not magic. It takes a few seconds. 3 bars. Pretty impressive, right? It's pretty nice. And it's only $200. This one, again, you do have to keep it attached to this mount. But for $200, you can have a cell phone booster and not have to pay for one of those $500 ones. So this is well worth it. So yeah, that's the Weboost Cell Booster. I think it works great. It's $200 now. It used to cost more before. If you're just living in a car or a van and you're just one person and you just have 1 cell phone and you want to boost it, I wouldn't buy one of those other ones. They're way more expensive and they kind of amplify and send waves locally. And I think it's just better just have one that uses just the amount of power it needs to just amplify a phone that's in contact with the base. I have measured it and it takes about 1.34 watts while it's in use. So you can plug it into your car, into your solar batteries for 10 hours. And that takes only 13 watt hours, which is pretty negligible really as far as battery use for solar panels. So overall, I really like it. I've been using it for 3.5 years. I finally decided to make a video because I've been meaning to. It's just, I haven't had the right situation to always, to best demonstrate it. And I can show you in other spots, but I think here it worked really well just because it was 1 bar with barely any data, and I could barely send a WhatsApp message, which usually takes minimal amounts of data. And then as soon as I plugged it in, like pictures went through in seconds. And I thought it was a great example of one of the uses for it. And again, most times when you come out here, cell signal is not a big deal and you can survive without it. But if you really want it, I think it's a great way to amplify where you are. The alternative I used to have to do before I got a booster is I would drive around and look for, just staring at my phone and look for spots where I have a signal, try to send it, chat with her, and then I would come back to camp, and that's just a waste of gas. And likely I would have to do it if I went somewhere where there's no signal at all, even with the booster. But we've gotten to the point where we just use in-reach messaging now. But I think it's just really nice to have that if you really want a cell signal. Again though, the antenna, having the wires just go through the door, it runs water through, so I wouldn't recommend that at all. But just put it up when you need it, and then just take it down when you don't. I put everything in a gallon Ziploc bag. Everything goes in there just fine. I've been using it for 3.5 years in the same Ziploc bag, and it's working great. It's pretty simple. Keep it tucked away, have it just kind of accessible in case you get somewhere where there's no service. But overall, I think there's no need to just keep it up all the time. The link to the device is below in my description of this video. If you'd like to go through that, it is an affiliate link. So I will get a little reward, and it won't cost you anything extra. But I really am making this video because I remember when I first researched this device, I thought, is it really going to be worth it? Is it really going to work like they say it works? And then I didn't really see any quantitative information. Like, I'm not showing you cell signal strengths, just the bars. But over 3.5 years, I have used it so much, I can tell you that if you want cell service and you often go to places where you have almost none to really weak service, it works amazingly well. It's totally worth it. And the way cell phones work, by the way, is when it has no service, it tries to use maximum power to reach out and look for those cell towers. So your phone will actually get warmer and the battery will drain quicker. And once it hits the tower, it lowers the power based on where it's at. So if you're in an area where you have really little service, your phone is just basically burning away trying to communicate to these towers. And by using something like this, the Weboost, branding, their marketing says it saves the battery on the phone because it doesn't have to do that as much. And that's true too. Tonight, before I go to sleep, because its signal's so weak, I'll just put it in airplane mode so it doesn't kill the battery overnight. But as soon as I wake up, I'll put on the booster, attach it, get my messages, things like that. So hopefully you found this video useful. Hopefully, I don't know, hopefully you believe me. I don't know. I think it works really well. So it's up to you to buy. It's always nice on Amazon to buy it, try it, and then return it. The catch is there aren't always places where you can try it. You have to go somewhere really remote to try it and see how well it works. Because anywhere on the highways, cities, you always get cell signal these days. And it seemed like with SpaceX starting to team up with T-Mobile users will start getting signal all over the place as well. But I'm with Verizon. I have a 5G phone. I have only seen it work well with 4G so far. The specs for the device, well, I bought mine before 5G was even available, so I'm sure it wouldn't work with it. I think the newer ones do say it can, but don't take my word for that. But hopefully you find this video a little useful. And when you next come to a beautiful place like this, you can have a little bit of cell signal when you thought that you weren't. It's pretty nice.